Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. A year ago, I released a video where I showed you guys how to develop a Python Flask API and then deploy this API on Google Cloud Run. However, there was an issue with my method. The problem was that every time I want to make a release, I would have to run a set of commands and then I would have to go to Google Cloud Run to deploy my project manually. Furthermore, this will also force me, the developer, to install the Google Cloud CLI tool to publish my Docker images onto Google Cloud. In this video, we're going to be automating the process of deploying our backend API on Google Cloud. To do so, we're going to be using GitHub Actions, and we're going to connect our GitHub Actions API to our Google Cloud API. This would allow us to automate the deployment of our backend. Now that you guys know about the problem and how we're going to fix the problem, let's now write some code. Alright guys, so here I am in VS Code, and here I have a very simple fast API backend that I've written in Python. Furthermore, we also have a requirements.txt file that you can build via the pip freeze command. So our first step for our project here is going to be to create a Dockerfile. From this Dockerfile, GitHub is going to build the Docker image. So within this Dockerfile here, I go from Python and then my Python version, so 3.12-alpine, and then I set my work directory, so /app, and then I copy over everything from my project repository. So I copy over everything and then I expose my port. So my fast API runs on port 8000, and then I run pip install. So I install from my requirements.txt file. So pip install requirements.txt, and then my entry command or my entry point for this Docker container or my image is going to be fast API, run, and then my main file, which is main.py. So here I go, main.py. That's it. And then I'm going to create a docker ignore file. So here I go .docker ignore, and then the stuff I don't want within my image. So I don't want my dev container folder, and I don't want my conda environment. So everything related to my environment should not be there as well. And then lastly, I do not want my pycache directory. That's it. When that's done, let's try to build our image and let's see if everything works. So here I go docker build -t. So my tag for this image is gcloud GitHub tutorial and then dot. So now let's build this image. Alright, so now with my Docker image built, let's try to run it. So docker run -p and then my port, so 8000, and then the name of my image. So it's gcloud GitHub tutorial. Let's run it. Okay, so now my server has started. I just want to see if my container works just fine. So let's go to this IP address, open, and yeah, as you can see, so far our project is working. So now let's take this project to GitHub. So I'm gonna go git add and then commit, and then my commit message, so finish project, and then I go git push. Actually, I have to push it to a repository. So let's publish this branch to a public repository, and now let's wait. Okay, so now it's there. Let's open to GitHub, and here you go. So as you can see, now our project is on GitHub. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Google Cloud Console, and then we're going to create a new project for my backend API. So let's create a new project. So here I go, new project, and then let's create a project. So let's call it gcloud docker tutorial, and then I create. So now let's wait for it to build. Okay, so now it has been built. Select project, and now we have some steps to perform. So my first step here is that I'm going to go to Artifact Registry. So I want to create a repository for my Docker image, and Artifact Registry is where our Docker images are going to live. So now let's wait, and then I'm going to enable this. So now with Artifact Registry enabled, I'm going to create a new repository, and let's call it Hello World Service. And let's select the region. So I'm going to select the region that's nearest to me. So it's Berlin, Germany. And yeah, this seems fine for now. And then let's click on create. So now I create my repository. Okay, so my repository now created. I'm going to go to service accounts. So I want to create a service account for my GitHub Actions API. And here I go, create service account. So the name of my service account. So since this account is for GitHub Actions, I'm going to call it GitHub Actions, like so. And then create and continue. So now I select a role. So my role here is going to be Artifact Registry Writer. This is because I want my service account to publish our Docker images to the Artifact Registry. And then one more, let's go Cloud Run Developer. So let's search developer. I think it was here. Yeah, Cloud Run Developer. And yeah, as the description suggests, let me zoom in. So as the description suggests, I want my service account to deploy my Docker images onto Cloud Run. And then I want to create another role, which is service account role or something like that. So it's service account user, I believe. Yeah, service account user. Now this is fine. And now let's continue. And this is optional. I'm going to skip this for now. Let's click on done. Okay, so now that my service account has been built, let's go to Workload Identity Federation, like so, and then I click on get started. All right, so now Google is asking us to create a pool. So since I want this pool to belong to GitHub Actions, I'm going to create an identity pool with the name of GitHub Actions, like so, and then I click on continue. So select a provider, OpenID Connect, and we have some provider details. So the name of my provider is going to be GitHub, obviously, and the issuer URL. So let's go to the documentation. So I'm just going to search for GitHub, gcloud, issuer URL, and here we have the documentation. So let's scroll down, and yeah, here as you can see, we already have the issuer URL. So let me just copy this. Let's go back, paste it here, and this seems fine for now. Let's continue. And now here we have our provider attributes. So let me zoom in here so it's a bit easier to see. So the first part, Google.subject, is going to be assertion.sub. Let's add another mapping. So it's attribute.actor, and the OIDC for it is going to be assertion.actor. Add another mapping. Attribute.repository is going to be assertion.repository. Let's add another mapping, which is my last mapping. So attribute.repository owner, like so. Its OIDC is going to be just like before, assertion.repository owner. So repository owner. So let me double check if everything's fine. So attribute.actor, assertion.actor, attribute.repository, assertion.repository, and then attribute.repository owner is assertion.repository owner. Okay, so this seems fine for now. And I'm going to scroll down to attribute conditions. Let's add a condition. So here it's attribute.repository equals assertion.repository. So now I save. And now let's wait. All right, guys, looks like we're almost done here. The last step here is going to be to link our service account to this identity pool. So I'm going to click on grant access. Let me just zoom in a bit. And this on the left panel, I'm going to click on grant access using service account impersonation. So now we have to select a service account. So GitHub Actions. So I'm going to click here and then repository. So now the repository should be the name of our GitHub repository. So in my case, it's going to be HusseinRF12/GitHub tutorial or gcloud GitHub tutorial. Let me copy this, go back, paste it here, and then let's save. Let me dismiss this. All right, guys, so looks like we're now done here. I've successfully linked my service account to this identity pool. Let's now go to GitHub and let's set a few environment variables. So I'm going to go to settings. So I'm going to open the settings in a new tab. And let's go to secrets and variables. Let's go to actions and then new repository secret. And our first secret is going to be workload identity provider. And I'm going to get the identity provider. So I'm going to go to Google Cloud once again. I'm going to go to providers. So within this identity pools panel, and I'm going to click on the edit button like so. So I'm going to scroll a bit up, and this is the environment variable that we need, or this is the value that we need. So let me copy. Let's go back, paste it here. However, there's still one thing we need to do. So we need to remove this part like so, and this seems fine for now. Let's add secret. Now let's create another repository secret. So this time it's going to be service account email. And let's go back to the console or the Google Cloud console. And I want to get the service account email. So I'm going to go to service accounts like so. And here we have the email address. So let me just copy this. So I just select it like so. Select this part, go back, paste it here, add secret. And yeah, this seems fine for now. So now let's go to actions, and I want to add my action. So new workflow, and let's choose our workflow. So let me just search for Google, and looking around, this is exactly what we need. We want to build a Docker container from our repository, publish it to the Artifact Registry. So we want to publish our Docker image and then deploy our Docker image to Google Cloud Run. So I'm going to select configure. Okay, so now this file, our actions file, has now been added to our repository, and we need to change some stuff here. So we need a project ID. So let's go to console. I go to the dashboard, and this is the project ID we need. Let me just copy this, go to GitHub, paste it like so. Then we have a region. So let's look at our region. So I go to Artifact Registry, and I believe our region is going to be Europe West 10. So let me copy this. Let's go back, paste the region like so. Let me zoom in a bit. And then we have our workload identity provider. So let me just remove the string. And our identity provider was an environment variable, or it was a secret. So to create a secret, I go $, to curly brackets. Let's end it here. So it's secrets dot and then workload identity provider. So let me copy this, paste it here. And then let's scroll down like so. So within our authenticate to Google Cloud step, we need to add a few more lines. So I want to add project ID. Let me fix the indentation. So project ID is our project ID from the environment variables. So $, once again, like so. And then env dot project ID. And now one more thing we need to do here is we need to assign a name to our Docker image. So we have a repository, and within the repository, recall that we need to have a Docker image. So let's assign a name to our Docker image. I'm going to create a new variable, Docker image name. Actually, let's call it image name. And I'm going to call it hello world service. And we forgot to change the service name. And in this case, it's going to be the Artifact Registry name or a repository name. So in this case, it's hello world service. So let's go back. And my service name, just like my Docker image name, is hello world service. Okay. And one last thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to add another line around here is workflow dispatch. So basically I want to run my GitHub action manually as well. So this seems fine for now. So now I'm going to commit my changes like so. And let's create a commit message. So create Google Actions, commit changes. Okay, so now let's go to actions, deploy to Google Cloud Run. So now we have our workflow coming up. And now let's run our workflow. Okay, so now let's look at our workflow. So let me click on deploy, and looks like it failed. So let's see the logs. Okay, so now within my step, build and push container, we have a log, failed to build, invalid tag. Okay, so this seems very weird, and I think I know why. So let's go to my repository once again. Let me refresh. Let's go back to our workflow file and edit this file. So I recall the error was at this stage. So I'm going to scroll down. Let me zoom in. Scroll down more. So it was at this stage. So it was mostly a syntax error. So it should be just a single $sign. However, there's two $signs. So let me remove this. So now let's save it, commit changes, and let's run it again. So I'm going to go to Actions once again, build and deploy to Google Cloud Run workflow once again. So now let's wait till we get our results. All right, guys, so looks like my pipeline was unsuccessful once again. Let's see what the errors are. So we have an error in the same stage, just like before. So now let's see what the logs say. Okay, so now let's scroll down. So far, as you can see, our Docker image was being built. So our dependencies were being installed. However, at the end of all of this text, we have this error that says permission Artifact Registry dot upload artifacts was denied on resource. On face value, this error message makes no sense. This is because in our service account, we already enabled Artifact Registry permissions. So now let's try to debug it. So now let's go back to Google Cloud. Let's go to Workload Identity Federation. And on this dashboard here, we have a little graph and we already have a few points here. So basically this indicates that GitHub Actions successfully authenticated with my Google Cloud resource. However, we're still failing, and I know exactly what the fix is. So let me go back to my repository. So let's edit it. And basically the fix is that we will have to link our service account to our GitHub action. So let me scroll down around this stage. So authenticate to Google Cloud, and we need to have a variable called service account or a key service account, and this needs to be an environment variable. So env.service account. Looks like I did not define my service account environment variable. However, I know it's within our secrets, or was it service account email? Let me double check. So within settings, secrets and variables, actions. Okay, so it was service account email. Let's scroll up, create an environment variable, service account email. So here I go dollar, once again, secrets dot service account email. We zoom in, and then let's end this. Let me give myself some space, so a new line. Let's scroll down around here, service account email. And then I also have to run a command called gcloud auth configure docker. So while learning for this concept here, I also ran into this issue, and this was a fix. So let me go back. Let's scroll down around here. And within the stage, I'm going to go gcloud auth configure docker and then the name of my region. So my region was Europe-West10-docker.package.dev. Okay, so now this seems fine. Hopefully we don't get any errors, but maybe we will get errors. Who knows? Let's commit changes once again. And now let's go back and rerun our workflow. So actions, build and deploy to cloud run workflow, run workflow. All right, guys. So unsurprisingly, we still have an error. So now let's see what the error is. So let me scroll down more. Looks like it was retrying. I think it was network issues within GitHub, and scroll down more. So here we have an error that says name invalid, missing image name. This is because we did not pass in our image name to the Docker push command. So if you're familiar with the gcloud CLI, the command to push our Docker image to Google Cloud was docker push and then the name of our project. Sorry, not our project. It was first region / and then it was our project name, and then it was our repository name. So repository name / and then we will have our image name. However, looking at our pipeline here, if we look within Docker tag, it's region project ID. So project ID or our project name, and then our service. So in this case, the repository name. And then we should also have an image here or our image name here. So let me add an image name. So this code is read only. Let me zoom out. Let's edit this file. And let's scroll down here once again. Actually, let me just zoom out and then zoom in via my browser like so, and slash dollar env dot image name. So this seems fine for now. So Docker will successfully push our image to Google Cloud. Okay, so this seems fine for now, and then we're gonna scroll down around here. So the deploy cloud run stage, we also have the same error. So basically we did not pass the image name. So I'm gonna pass in my image name here once again. So env dot image name. Okay, so that's it. Hopefully that's it. And let's commit changes. Commit changes once again. Go back, zoom out, and let's run our workflow. Run workflow and then run workflow. Alright guys, so we have an error once again, unsurprisingly. So let's scroll down, and here as you can see we have an error that says Cloud Run admin API has not been used in this project before. So basically it's disabled, so we need to enable it. So let me open it in a new tab and let me enable it. Let's wait for it to load. Okay, and then I click on enable. So now let's wait for it to be completely enabled, and then we can run this workflow once again. Okay, so now it has been enabled. Let's go back and then run our workflow or our pipeline once again. And then run workflow. Okay guys, so a while later, looks like my pipeline has been now successful. There are no errors so far. So now I want to verify that my API or my Python project has not been deployed. So let me go to the console and let's go to Artifact Registry. Let me zoom in. Artifact Registry. Let's click this link. And then within my Artifact Registry, I'm going to see if my images are there. Yes, so as you can see, we now have our Hello World service Docker image published. So now let's go to Cloud Run and let's see if our API has been deployed. So I go to Cloud Run like so, and let's go to services. Here, as you can see, our Hello World service has now been deployed by GitHub Actions. That's great to see. And here on the right, here you can see our service account that we used for GitHub Actions. This means that GitHub successfully used our API credentials to authenticate with Google Cloud. So now let's go to Hello World service, and here we have the URL. Let me zoom in. Here we have the URL. Let me copy this and let's paste it here. Okay, so here we have a 403 error, and I know exactly what the fix is. So basically Google wants you to be authenticated after you've deployed your service. So let me click on security like so, and within authentication I'm going to click on allow public access, and then we save. Okay, so that's it. Let's wait for a bit. Now let me go back, refresh, and now here as you can see my API has been successfully deployed. We now have a hello message coming up from our API. That's it for today. If you guys were confused about service accounts and Workload Identity Federation, I would advise you guys to watch this video from Google Cloud where they explain you about workload identity verification and how it works with service accounts. In this video, you guys learned how to automate the deployment of your backend Python API via GitHub Actions. If you guys have any questions, let me know within the comment section below. Till then, see you later and bye bye.